And good evening, and welcome to Just Us Radio. Again, we have another wonderful One Point of View show this evening with our guest, Niara Ilsley. First of all, I'd like to introduce you, as usual, to my co-host, Jerry Jones.
Hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. The weather's taken a right turn today. I was out at the zoo with the grandsons, and gosh, I was just bucketing. I was just sweating all over the place.
Wow.
It said 79, but it felt like 89.
Wow.
It was nice, but too hot to be walking around.
It was lovely here. It was just about maybe close to 70, and that was like, wow, I can't believe it. We've been so cold for so long, so it was totally exciting. Yeah.
So this is Sheila Folger, and it's Saturday, today, the 12th of April. And our wonderful guest today, I'm so excited to speak to Niara. She has been a spiritual seeker, like most of us have just realized when we've woken up, from the cradle up, really. And she discovered a disturbing 3-month block of missing time from 1980 during her tour of duty in the USAF. Then she underwent hypnosis to investigate this and other memories and strange dreams from childhood. What she discovered then turned her life inside out for many years, launching her into in-depth study and research to find out what happened. She has been on a long healing journey since then, and she has awakened to the multidimensional universe we all live in. And now she has written a book, which I think everybody ought to read. It's called Facing the Shadow, Embracing the Light. And so I'd like to introduce now Niara. Welcome.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on the show.
You're welcome. Am I pronouncing your name correctly, Niara?
It's pronounced Niara Terela Isley.
Okay, because you know we have British accents, both me and you.
Yes,
yeah, we usually say things wrong.
That's fine.
Yes, we're so delighted to have you on this evening, Niara.
Welcome, thank you.
And would you start off just going through your experiences for people that don't know, just, you know, not in great detail, but we'd like to spend the first time on the show just talking about what happened to you and how you found out what went on in your missing time.
Well, it was interesting. I mean, it kind of goes, you know, when I wrote the book, I just looked and it kind of went back and back and back. But what really happened was I was talking to a friend one day, and he asked about my military time, and he asked me to tell him about it chronologically. And he did that because he kind of noticed that I didn't talk about the military much, and when the subject would come up, I'd kind of change the subject. And I didn't realize I was doing that. So he sat down one day and said, tell me about your military time chronologically, you know. And so I did, and then when I got to January of 1980, I couldn't remember anything about where I worked. I knew that I worked at Tonopah for all that time, from like January to April of 1980, but I couldn't remember anything about working at Tonopah. I couldn't remember coworkers. I couldn't remember the work site. I couldn't remember anything. I was a surface-to-air missile and anti-aircraft artillery radar operator, and that really concerned me. When I realized I couldn't remember, I had this wave of nausea come over me, and so I ran into Bud Hopkins about a year later. I think either just right around a year or, you know, a little bit later. And I ran into him at the Whole Life Expo, and long story short is he offered to do a hypnosis session to try to get some answers about that missing time. And that's when I found out that I had what they call a military abduction or a MyLab abduction, where even though I was in the military, I was taken out of my room in the middle of the night at gunpoint, and I was, you know, put on a truck and taken out to a radar site. I don't know if it was the same one I worked at or not, but I was taken out to a radar site with the type of equipment that I was familiar with, and we tested to see if the radar would track these UFOs or ET craft. And they could have been a combination of ET craft and or back-engineered craft that our military has managed to create now.
It's really interesting you say that, Niara, because I've spoken to a few people from the military, and they do avoid talking about it.
Mhm.
So it's really interesting that you say that. And when you're talking about my lab, that's when you're under hypnosis, you realize that what kind of beings were coming into your room?
Well, it was human beings.
Mhm.
So,
dressed in military clothing?
hold on a minute. Did I lose you?
No, you're still there.
All right, I just wanted to make sure. Can you repeat the question again?
Yes, were they in military clothing?
Yes, they were wearing kind of a jungle fatigue, like desert camouflage fatigue, and I don't know that if they were regular military or if they were contract security for the test site. I'm not sure which.
Okay. So then you went through a hypnosis where you started to get not only memories of what had happened to you, but dreamtime memories as well.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of things do they involve?
Well, with the military abductions, most of that came back from hypnosis. There were some dreams that were kind of strange, but most of that came from hypnosis. And that was, so the things that happened to me happened in 1980, and it was 1994 when I got the memory back from hypnosis with Bud Hopkins.
Right, so that was a long time period.
Yeah.
Have you been in touch with anyone else that you worked with at that time, in 1980?
No, I've lost contact with all those folks.
Right.
And I know there's a website, classmates.com, where you can get back in touch with some of those military members, but it's a little nerve-wracking to think about doing that, things considered, so I've just kind of left that alone.
Yeah. Do you feel that you've totally healed from that area, or do you still have a lot of emotions when you talk about it?
I'm pretty well healed. I still have a lot of emotions come up every so often when I'm talking about it, and I guess it depends on the person I'm talking to and the level of intimacy that I have with that person.
Yes, I understand that. Yeah. Yes. So,
but I still have feelings come up, and it's, post-traumatic stress disorder. I still suffer from that, but I've gotten to know it really, really well. So I know when it's coming on, and I know what it's about, and I know what's triggering me, and so I have a good handle on it, I would say. Yeah,
I just sensed a little bit of that as you were talking. That's why I was trying to go gentle with you, because I know a lot of things have happened to me, Niara, and I don't know what half of them mean or where they come from, but I only talk to Jerry and one other person, so I know what you feel like. It's not an easy thing, because first of all, you don't know if anyone's going to believe you, and it just sounds so outrageous. Yeah. So if you want to move away from that, where did you go on your research path?
On the research path, well, the first thing I did was like, I had never heard of military abductions, so that was what I really wanted to find out about. So I started going to any lecture about UFOs or ETs or anything that I could get to in Las Vegas, Nevada, and there were quite a few that I did go to. And I ran into a woman named Misha Johnston, and she does a lot of groups for people that have had experiences like this. She has groups for people that have had military abductions, groups for people that have had MK-Ultra mind control abuse, which is very similar to what I went through. And she has groups for people that just have ET contact. And she's a wonderful person. She's very experienced, and she's doing a great job with those groups. So anyway, I found her, and she connected me with a lot of people that could help explain to me what had happened. Meanwhile, for myself, as I was searching and looking around, I wasn't sure whether to believe my own hypnosis, but then finding all these people that had had similar experiences or knew what I had experienced, that was really disconcerting, because back in the beginning I would have felt a lot better not finding any collaborating information, but I found a lot more correlation than not, And that really, really frightened me even more back in those early years.
Yes, I can understand that, because, I mean, I've thought about hypnosis so many times, but you just don't know who to trust or where to go. And so I guess when the time's right, you do find people, you do bump into people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I got, fed up with it all, and I just thought, well, the aliens aren't talking, and the government's not talking, and the military's not talking, and all these experiencers are running around trying to find out what the heck happened to them. And finally, I just thought, this is not what I want my life to be about. I want to go back to eating yoga and doing meditation and eating health food.
Yes, yes.
And so I kind of tried to just drop it, shove it in a black box in the back of my mind and forget it, and get back to a life that meant something to me. But unfortunately, the stuff was just kind of sitting there, and I'm still having, post-traumatic stress kind of things. And then finally in 2003, I had more hypnosis. I found someone I trusted enough to do more hypnosis. And I had more hypnosis to find out and fill in a little bit more of what happened. And that's when I found out about being taken out at gunpoint, and that's when I found out about the sexual assault and being injected. And so it was a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lot to process, and I did find someone, and I think it's because the Bush-Cheney years were such a wake-up call for so many people in the country, because they just, were doing things with our government that were just against the Constitution and everything.
Yeah.
So people were really shocked, and I think it created an opening in mainstream society for my experiences not to seem quite so far out.
Yes, it's a time when people are coming together, because all this information about so many things is coming out now. And when you start going down the rabbit hole at first, it is scary, and you really wish you could go back to a normal life, but it just doesn't happen like that.
No, there's no going back.
No.
Unfortunately.
Do you ever get flashbacks now, just in dreams or just during the daytime that remind you of things?
Yeah, if something happens, here's an example. I was getting a massage from a male massage therapist, a man, and as he was starting to do the massage, he was resting his hands right below my throat, like just right at the collarbone.
Mm-hmm.
He was just taking some deep breaths and kind of connecting with me before starting. But his hands were so close to my throat that I actually had a flashback.
All right.
This blonde security guard, who I call my handler for that time, he actually would slowly squeeze and choke me until I lost consciousness.
Right.
And then he would let me revive, and then he'd do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would be put in a position where I felt like I was going to die. I felt like I was being strangled to death.
Yeah.
And when he would do that, and so when the massage therapist did that, I had that flashback come right back, and I came up almost halfway off the massage table.
Right. Do you find that these things, because I know when I've studied what's happened to the super soldiers and different people with my labs, and they seem to put them through this torture to bring out some kind of superpowers in them.
Mm-hmm.
Have you experienced any of that at all? Has your psychic ability or anything like that enhanced?
Well, I don't know. I think I have a lot of psychic ability because I'm a starseed.
Right.
And it is growing exponentially these days. I haven't hung out a shingle as a psychic, but I probably could.
Yes, yes.
But one of the things a recent insight that came to me, because a lot of the military abduction people that I have met and talked to now, a lot of them are also starseeds. And I think that a starseed is kind of a special person, that they have special abilities. They have more of their DNA is available to them, and they have some expanded abilities. So I think that the military really looks for these special kids, the special people that have the starseed energy, because they think, well, these people already have some kind of enhancement, from their ET contacts. And so they want to use that. They want to work with that. They want to use it for their own purposes. And so it's really tragic that that a starseed would fall into a program like that and be abused and traumatized.
Can you go through your evaluation of what a starseed is? Because we hear things about all these different kinds of seeds, and what do you feel it is, and the people that you've connected with that have the same traits?
The starseed is something, I guess I would probably cite Dolores Cannon here.
Right.
She has run into so many people in her work, in her hypnosis work, that it's like when the atomic bombs started to go off back in the 1940s, the ETs, it sends out, when you explode an atomic bomb, it creates a subspace reaction and it goes out into the ethers, and it actually disrupts energy fields far, far away from, even further from Earth. You know, I mean, we feel the effect here on Earth, but it sends out an energy wave that affects things out in the universe as well, like out in the solar system, out in the galaxy. And so when we did the nuclear bombs, it was like sending up a flare saying, hey, we're playing around with some pretty dangerous stuff here. And ETs started coming at that point and thinking, what are they doing with this nuclear stuff, you know? And that's when they were trying to decide, well, we have to try to do something about this, and how can we work with this? And so they came up with this idea of having evolved souls from the different ET races come and incarnate as human on Earth at this time as a means of trying to discover what is really going on this planet at this time and how they can help. And I say that I'm one of them because in my hypnosis session in 2010 with Mary Rodwell, I actually saw myself astral travel back to the ship that I am part of, you know, the Lyran people, or what I consider to be my people. And I would go into a glass tube, and they would turn it on, and sound and light waves would start bouncing back and forth inside of this glass tube. And it would take all the information in my astral body and upload it into what I would call the holographic systems of the ship. And then any one of my people can go sit at a console or access that record, and they can vicariously experience what it was like for me to be down here going through things. And that gives them information about what's going on down here, just how bad it gets down here, and it also gives them an idea of where can they put little things, you know, like have an ET sighting or something that isn't direct interference that can help raise awareness to the people of Earth that ETs are out there and they are watching.
So is it the Lyran people? I've never heard of those. Lyran, L-E-R-I-N?
Lyran, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And where do they come from, Niara?
There's a star system called Lyra, and there's a little constellation that has Lyra and Vega and a few other stars in it, and that's the system that I come from. And trying to think here.
It's okay. We can have a look at that. Yeah, we can see.
That's what I was going to say was that when the precession of the equinoxes of planet Earth, you know how the Earth kind of wobbles on its axis?
Yes.
And so the top, you know, if there was like a ball with a knitting needle through it showing the tilt of the Earth on the axis, and that knitting needle, right now that knitting needle is still pointed at Polaris as the North Star. And I found it very interesting that when 26,000 years go by, or, you know, half of that cosmic cycle goes, the precession of the equinoxes moves the North Pole point of the Earth, and it points at the Lyran constellation. So I thought that was really fascinating, that Lyra is our North Star. Wow. When the precession of the equinoxes reaches its other 180-degree point.
Mm-hmm. When you said you went into a glass tube, was it like a standing glass tube, or were you lying down?
I was standing.
Okay, just like one of those things we go through, the security things, or the star ship.
Much nicer. It felt much better. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And did you actually see ETs?
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What do they look like?
My people have kind of a bluish turquoise skin, and they have hair, and they look human, just have the kind of bluish skin, and they have a little bit larger eyes than human beings, and they're very spiritual. We're all very telepathic, and so it's that's how they look. And then the grays, of course, most people have described those, over and over again. And
were yours the smaller grays or the taller ones?
I saw both of them.
Right. Okay.
And I would probably agree that the smaller ones are kind of robotic.
Yeah.
And the tall ones are the organic ones.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And how tall are the living people? Are they tall or are they shorter?
The little ones, are like 3 or 4 feet high, but the tall ones, they can be fairly tall. I would say 5, And the hybrid being that I interacted with a lot, I think he was really tall. I think he was like 6 feet.
Right. Okay.
Very tall, slender.
Have you ever encountered anybody around here that you thought might be a hybrid?
Anybody on Earth?
Yes.
Yeah, I think Cynthia Crawford, who is the ET sculptor.
Right, yes, I've seen her.
I definitely think that she is a hybrid. And I actually think that I may be a hybrid myself. I think that I may have gotten, something extra when I was in the womb.
Right.
And so hybrid is an interesting word,
Yes, it could be any proportion, couldn't it?
Mm-hmm, it could be. And 2 different sources have said that we have the DNA of 22 different ET species in our DNA as it is.
Right.
So I tell people, and there's a lot of documentation on that. I went into it in my book a little bit, and I tell people today, I said, if you want to see an ET, look in the mirror, because you are part of those star people in your genetic makeup.
Right. Mm-hmm. Did you actually, because Mary Rodwell's in Australia, isn't she?
Yes.
Did you actually see her here? Or was this done, remotely?
Mm-hmm. I met her at the 2010 UFO Congress where I was a speaker.
Oh, right. Because Mary is somebody I'd really like to meet.
Mm-hmm. She's a wonderful person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, was this, how long a period was this when you were going through understanding that you were meeting these people? Or did it just come up in the hypnosis sessions?
Well, I had the post-traumatic stress without any memories to make sense of it. So when I got the memories back, at least I understood why I had post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Yeah, sorry, don't worry about that. I want to, because something else is coming on my mind. Can you describe to me what you feel a handler is for, what they actually do?
Well, they're there to keep your programming intact. So if they're traumatizing you to get you to forget what you've seen or heard, then they want to make sure that they keep the trauma happening periodically, maybe randomly even, so you don't know when it's coming.
And did you know this person here? You actually knew them physically?
What now? I didn't hear.
Did you actually know your handler physically? Did you know who he was?
No, I didn't,
and
I still don't know his name. Right. If I was to work with a forensic artist, I might be able to get a pretty good rendition of what he looked like.
Right, okay. Yeah, it's all very strange, isn't it, how all these things are going on, but it's so great in these times that so many people are coming together. Mm-hmm. Do you know if you have any implants or anything like that, Cynthia?
Implants that I might have?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have one behind my right ear. There's a big bump there. I woke up when I was 9 with that big bump in behind my ear. And then I woke up from a dream where it seemed to me that somebody was inserting something under the skin over my sacrum at the base of the spine.
So you felt a being next to you inserting something, yeah?
Yeah, well, I was having a dream, and I woke up from the dream with a big startle, again, kind of almost jumping up out of bed. Because what the thought just before waking up was, my God, somebody is inserting something under the skin over my sacrum.
Right.
And so when I woke up, I was on my stomach on my bed, and I don't sleep on my stomach.
Right. You mentioned when you were 9. Do you now have memories of things that were going on before you went into the military?
Yeah. I had the first experience with the Greys that seemed to be, like, I do think there were earlier experiences, like I think they may have done something when I was in the womb. But at 4 years old, I had this nightmare of being taken out in the middle of the night by my sister with 2 friends, and she had 2 friends with her that I couldn't see who they were, I couldn't see their faces. And that was kind of a red flag for Bud. He said, well, if you can't see who they are, there's something in you that doesn't want to see what they are. And so that was one of the things that really clued him in that something was going on. So anyway, in the dream, I was taken out in the middle of the night, and my sister left me under a street lamp, and everything else was pitch dark where the light wasn't touching from the street lamp. So I'm standing in the light of the street lamp, and my sister says, stay here until I come back to get you and take you home. So I'm standing, this little 4-year-old girl, on a big, dark, empty street under the street lamp, all alone, and I kept waiting for my sister to come back and waiting and waiting. Finally, she didn't come, so I started screaming. And I woke up in my bed screaming, and my mother came in and shushed me to be quiet because she didn't want me to wake up my dad. And that dream, when we looked at it under hypnosis, was actually a contact with the Zetas. The Zetas actually came, they levitated me out of my bed right through the ceiling of the house.
Yes.
And when I got onto the ship, I was on this table. They were examining me, and it looked like, or felt like, they were looking at my abdominal cavity. They had something like an ultrasound. And in hindsight, with the way that they used me, basically for a broodmare for the hybridization program, I think that they were looking at me, even at 4 years old, they were looking at my reproductive organs.
And do you think anyone else in your family was affected?
I think my father was. I'm not sure about my mother, although, she must have been taken when I was in the womb at least. But I think my dad was definitely another abductee.
Because it seems to run in the family, and something to do with DNA and bloodlines as well. Yeah,
and bloodlines, and they seem to really like to pick up people that have Native American bloodlines.
That's what I was thinking. Yes, indigenous people in particular, yes.
Yeah.
All over the world that happens too.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a traumatic experience to go through, and then to understand that these things have been going on in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a thing that many other people realize as well, that it didn't just happen once. It's just bringing everything together. So, did you have someone close to you to talk to you, Niara?
I didn't.
Yeah.
Other than the support I got from Misha when I was still living in Las Vegas, I really didn't have that much support. And then when I moved away from Las Vegas, there was really very little, if any at all. And it was just, it was just kind of like walking the planet alone, trying to deal with post-traumatic stress, afraid to go to a traditional therapist because the kind of things I had to talk about, nobody in the mainstream society even heard of. It was a really, really rough time.
Mm-hmm. And when you're in Vegas, was that a period you were... Because I'm trying to get to... There's a lot of bases around Vegas, isn't there?
A lot of what? Bases?
Yeah, a lot of military bases, ET bases, supposedly. Do you know of any places that you actually went to? Or were yours just on the ships?
Well, when I was in Nevada, I was basically working at the Nevada test site as a radar operator. So that's where I was working there. Mm-hmm. And as far as ET bases, the only ET base that I know of in that area would be the tall whites that were talked about by Charles Hall.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask you about, around Papu's Lake, around that way. And that, you know, Charles said that they often go into Vegas. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and walk among people. So
I didn't have any contact with them, but I find his story very compelling, and in light of my own memories, I definitely believe him.
Yes, yes. It's interesting that you're talking about a blue turquoise colour. Do you know what kind of, you know, if you don't want to talk about this, it's fine, but I'm just trying to, because I've not come across this colour before. Do you know what sort of skin they had? Was it smooth, or was it like the little ETs, rubbery, or?
You know, the Lyran people?
Yes.
With the blue skin? They have skin that's very similar to ours.
Right. Would you say they're kind of like the Nordic people, only a different colour?
No, I don't think they're really like the Nordics.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Somebody asked me the other day if they were cat-like.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think that they're really quite cat-like either.
Right.
So.
Yeah, there's so many different types now that are coming to the light.
There are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We've got an interview next month with Simon Parks from the UK. Have you heard of him?
I have heard of him.
Yes, he's on with us on the 2nd of May, I think it is. He's got an interesting story to tell. So, yes, people are coming together all over the place because something is happening. Do you, you said that when you're in this glass tube, do you feel that they were giving you information? I know you said they were giving you information to go out to the world to help people, but were they giving you any kind of information of where the Earth is going to at this time?
Where the Earth is going to?
Yeah, you know, some people talk about Ascension or something like that. Yes.
Yeah, Ascension, that's an interesting word.
I know, I don't really like that word, but people understand. If you say that, they know what you mean.
Yeah. Well, I've wondered about it, and I guess the best thing that I've come up with myself is I think Ascension could be something similar to a first stage enlightenment by degree for the whole human collective, or a significant number of human beings, that we all get there at once. You know, down through the ages, you know, people would achieve enlightenment, you know, through meditation or spiritual practice, individual by individual. But I think that right now we're in a time where humanity as a collective is supposed to achieve a first stage enlightenment. And I think that part of that, achieving that first stage of enlightenment, will help that dimensional shift that's talking about. And I've been having symptoms that I would call definitely, I hate to call them ascension symptoms, but sometimes I look at the world and it doesn't look real to me. It looks kind of surreal.
Mm-hmm.
And
I definitely understand that.
Yeah, and that's been happening way more frequently over the last 6 weeks than it has in the past.
Yes, it's very interesting because it seems, you know, I totally agree with you, and I get a lot of these symptoms, as most of us have now that have woken up. But, you know, and it makes sense that as we're trying to go through this kind of evolution, that there would be people born here to try to make this happen in the collective consciousness. But at the same time, you know, the people on the other side that are trying to stop us are putting all these mind control things out there to try and stop it. So there's obviously a kind of war going on here to stop us, and we're trying to get through this. So it makes sense that a big change is coming.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So where did you go from there to healing? Who did you go to help you with your healing after your hypnosis? Or was that done through Bud as well?
No. Bud isn't really like a therapist. He just was doing the hypnosis and the research, and I'm sure he talked to some people that he was working with in his own local area more. But for me, and you know, and this is nothing against Bud at all, but it was kind of like a hit and run hypnosis session. Well, here's your hypnosis. Here's all these memories that you now have. Now I'm going to go back to New York. Thank you, and whatever.
Yeah.
And that was a little difficult. When you have those kind of memories, you really need to have some support.
Yes. But I guess, if we take the option that everything happens for a reason, it was probably sending you in the right direction to somewhere else.
Yeah. So, I'm not upset by it, but I do hypnosis myself now. I got certified to do Dolores Cannon's hypnotherapy method, quantum healing hypnotherapy. And I would never do that. If I do a hypnosis session with someone, then I want to make sure that they're either going to come and get therapeutic support from me, and I have many certifications now to handle that, or I want them to be able to get therapeutic support from someone.
Yes.
They can't just be left adrift like I was for 10 years, wandering around scared to death with post-traumatic stress, and it's really hard. I mean, it really affects you. People don't realize just how it affects you, especially when you've been in a mind control program. The issues that come up are trust. You don't trust anybody or anything. And then the second thing is control issues. So it makes it very hard to work for an employer, because if that employer wants you to do the job a particular way and they come and say, well, you need to do this or you need to do that, some part of you that has post-traumatic stress from being too controlled and abused under control, it's going to feel threatening to have a boss do that. So it's probably best, I would guess, that if someone has had these kind of experiences, they would do well to try to find a way to make a living without working for someone else.
Gosh, Niara, I didn't realize that you were actually going through that state for 10 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My goodness, that's amazing.
I remember George Cavassalis talking very similar when he was looking for help, and he did actually go to a couple of mainstream therapists, and he was like, no, they started trying to put him on drugs and all sorts of things, and he walked away before he got by them. But it's interesting to hear you speak, because he spoke the same way about after the experiences he had, and he was looking for help, and he just couldn't find the right people to help. And he had that chronic fatigue syndrome with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, interesting.
Jerry and I both know what it's like. I don't know where that comes from with us, but we just hate control systems now. We've been through things in our life where if someone tries to control us, it's very, very difficult. I mean, and to be honest with you, I've walked out from a couple of jobs because people are like that. It's we just don't want to be told what to do when we understand things in a different way.
I think we've woken up to realise that authority we don't need it. And we've accepted it from birth, but now, I'm the prime example. I gave myself a life of slavery, literally, and I know what it's like to be a slave. And I've woken up, and I'm completely walking in the other direction now, and realizing that we have to be responsible for ourselves, and we do not need authority and rules and bosses as long as we stick to law.
Well, authority, it's so abused in our society today. I mean, if you work for an employer, for every good boss out there are 20 or 30 bad ones. I mean, they just get a little power and it goes to their head, and then they just want to boss people around, and just for the sake of bossing them around, it seems like. I've had some really bad jobs where I know that I did a really fine job for those people, and yet it's almost like if you do a really good job, you get penalized because the person over you is afraid you're after their position.
Yes, that's totally true. So how did you break away from your handler? Or is it just that when you realized what was going on, did everything stop when you realized what was going on? Or how did it stop previously to that?
Yeah, no, it didn't stop. I think it stopped for this reason. I started having this vision pop into my head, and I think, again, it's because of the psychic senses kind of coming online. And the vision was like this view of a boardroom, maybe in the Pentagon or someplace, and there's this table, and these people are sitting around the table, and there's like a colonel or maybe a one-star brigadier general sitting at the table, but I think it was a full bird colonel. And somebody threw a file out in the middle of the table, and they said, well, she's out there talking, what are we going to do about it? And this colonel picked up the file and put it to one side, and he said, we're going to leave her completely alone. Is that understood? You know, something like that. And so I was having this, and it was kind of confusing to me because I thought, is this just wishful thinking on my part that, you know, what's going on here? And then when I had the hypnosis session with Mary Rodwell, in that session, there was a being that I was interacting with while I was under hypnosis, and he took me to the moon of the past, because that's one of the things that happened to me is I got put on one of those craft and taken to a moon base. And I told the being, I said, I don't want to go near the moon. It was a horrific experience, and I don't really want to go back there at all. And he said, this is something you really need to see. It's really important for you to see this. And so I said, okay. So we kind of went astral traveling to the moon of the past when I was there. And he showed me, this ET being showed me an exchange that took place between an ET that was living in a base on the moon and an officer who was in charge of my time on the moon and my being there. And the ET was saying to the officer, you have no idea who you have there. You realize everything you're doing to her gets reported back to her people. You know, like via the glass tube.
I've heard that from somebody else.
Yeah.
I've heard that exact same sentence from somebody else, and I can't remember who it is now. That's just amazing. And they do, you know, several people have said that they do walk the halls of the Pentagon anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that at that point they thought, oh man, we got somebody that we probably shouldn't be messing with. So they took me back to Earth, and they did everything they could to make sure I wouldn't remember anything and turn me loose. I think that's what happened.
Right, okay. So there seems to be two different sides here. You've got the MyLab abductions and things going on there, and then you've got the living people that seem to be the good people.
Oh yeah, very good. They're my people. I mean, I'm part of them.
So I wonder why it happens that this is allowed to take place with the MyLabs when, I mean, it seems to me that when that was stopped, you know, somebody said, leave her alone, you don't know who you've got here, that there could have been something to stop that happening further back when the MyLab experiences were going on. Or do you feel that this is something that, well, we know everything needs to happen? It just seems a bit contradictory, doesn't it, the way it's done?
Maybe, not really. It's kind of like the military's doing one thing, and they get a hold of ET technology, and they don't really understand it. They didn't develop it from its inception, so they don't understand the unity principle it's founded on. They just want to weaponize it and use it for their own agendas.
Yes.
So they get the technology and everything. And meanwhile, the star beings are out there orbiting Earth in their ships, and they're kind of watching what's going on, paying attention to what's going on. And I think that they'd like to help. But it's quite an interesting situation. It's kind of a thorny situation here because consciousness really is at the foundation of everything.
Yes.
So I'm guessing from what I've learned all these years of trying to understand this phenomena through research and then my own intuitive insights and, you know, contact, you know, telepathic contact I get from my people, that the consciousness question or the consciousness issue is one of the things that is kind of a thorny issue. If we were just physical beings and we didn't have, and consciousness wasn't what was creating and sustaining the universe, it would be different. But the true nature of reality in the universe is consciousness. And then we have, out of consciousness comes creation in all form. Planets and people and animals and birds and everything in creation comes out of consciousness.
Yeah.
And so on Earth here, we have a compartmentalized consciousness. We have our conscious mind, where we spend most of our time. Then we have the subconscious, which relates to our emotional nature. And then we have the superconscious mind, which relates to our soul or our spiritual nature. And so we don't spend much time in our superconscious mind, and we don't spend much time dealing with the subconscious either. We're just in our conscious mind. But those other two realms are still part of us.
Mm-hmm.
And those realms, there's probably some awareness that we're all in this whole Earth dream time together. And at some level, I'm sure that every person on this planet is aware that they are participating in a whole reality that's meant to teach us more about ourselves.
Yes, yes. It's interesting though, isn't it, when you look at everything. There's so many different levels and so many different aspects of things that it's difficult to really understand exactly where we came from and where we're going to. Mm-hmm. It's
so the consciousness thing, the ETs are very aware of consciousness. They understand it far better than we do, and their consciousness is more integrated. So they're in contact with their superconscious mind. They're in contact with their subconscious. Everything is integrated for them. So for us down here on Earth, it's not. And I think that presents quite a problem for them to just come down here and land and start to interact with us. Because if they look at us and they touch our mind telepathically, suddenly all the stuff that's in our subconscious that could scare the crap out of us is confronting us, because it's been brought up by the telepathic contact with the extraterrestrial.
Yes.
And so it's a tricky process for telepathic extraterrestrials to land here and make contact with humans. And it's kind of disagreeable for them, too, because we don't know all the things that are inside of us.
Yes. And there's so many other things out there as well. I mean, to be honest, there aren't, percentage-wise, there are more people that don't believe in ETs and things than not. So that's one problem. How to handle that would be difficult. And then there's the other side as well, where we hear so much that we don't really understand what is our own technology, what is, something that's going to be presented to us as an ET landing for good, and it's really not going to be. There's all these things that are out there on the internet now, so it's a really difficult situation to get it right, I think.
Yeah, and then we have Hollywood stirring the pot, and I assume that there's the powers that be are behind Hollywood, drumming up a lot of fear in movies.
Yes.
So for every inspirational, beautiful film like Avatar that comes out, there are 20 or 30 scary movies about bad aliens that are going to attack and take over the earth and kill people and things like that. And while people can make an argument that it's just entertainment, if you see a craft come down and land in your city, the first thing you're going to think of is that scary film.
Yes. But all sorts of things are happening now. It's interesting that when they made the movie E.T., that looks like a little grey as far as I can see. But they put it out into a way that it made you feel for him. And yet, as far as I can tell, the little grey ETs belong to the MyLab experiences. So I wouldn't put them myself under the category of a good alien.
Well, there's different greys. I mean, you can't lump all the greys together, because I think there are some that have a good agenda and there are some that don't have a good agenda. And there are variations within the greys. So I wouldn't say that we can lump them all together. But it's kind of a confusing thing, because some people want to say that all ETs are good, and I don't believe that.
No.
But I don't think they're all bad either. And right here in one species, here on Earth, in our human species, we have individuals like Mother Teresa, and then we have individuals like Charles Manson.
Yes.
Okay, within one species. So I don't think that we can make a blanket judgment. We like that as human beings, like the Fort Hood incident, and now they're wanting to go after all the Muslims, which got pointed at as the target for that.
Yes.
And all Muslims are not bad.
No, absolutely not. I mean, Britain's quite a multi-racial country, and I've never had any problems with other people. People are people wherever they come from, and if you meet one bad person, it doesn't matter what colour they are at all. It doesn't mean everybody else is like that. So, no, I just find it interesting that it seems to be showing children that, I don't know, I just have it in my mind that is there for if anything happens, and the MyLab ETs start coming out to do something, that people will think about them like that E.T. film. I'm not saying that all ETs are like that, but I know there's always a reason to put films out there, so that's why that was coming into my mind there.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions to ask, Jerry?
Not at the moment. I'm just really listening because, hearing these sort of stories is very different for me because I haven't experienced anything like this. And you have a little bit, Sheila, in your own ways. And I find it fascinating just to listen to, your stories. So, I think, we should just continue with, what sort of just comes up for Niara, and that what's the most sort of like, I think really, I suppose my main question would be what's the most important experience you've had as regards leading yourself to help us all as man on earth to regain our freedom. I mean, these connections with ETs, do you think it's ultimately going to help us or hinder us? Or is there any, I suppose maybe it might be difficult to even know that, but my focus at the moment is freeing mankind from this authority. In fact, I'm just reading a book called, The End of All Evil. And he explains all about evil is authority. So it's very interesting to me, and I feel that's really our ultimate aim, is to end evil and get rid of authority. So I just wonder if your experiences, you think there's anything that can really connect us to that ultimate goal.
Well, I think the extraterrestrials, there's another thing that I've started studying since I finished the book, and it's in the Gnostic scriptures, and it's this idea of Archons. And Archons are supposedly some kind of self-styled overlord that comes from a different dimension. And they're described as looking like the Greys. But again, I don't think it's all of the Greys, because some people report such beautiful experiences with Greys. So go figure. And they describe them also as reptilian. So I'm trying to figure out, what exactly is really going on with this phenomenon, and I'll probably be writing about it more in the future. But I think that these fourth-dimensional Archons are probably the force behind the Illuminati and the force behind all the control on this planet. And I actually put a chapter in my book called Reclaiming Freedom, because I feel like people have been so controlled, so manipulated, so dumbed down, that there's probably a lot of people out there that think freedom is something that's granted to you by the state, and the state can also take it away.
Yes.
And I'm here to tell you that what we are made of is freedom. We're made of energy that is free-flowing, that's flowing into us, that creates and sustains our body all the time. And it's when there's a block in our energy field that block stays there for a while, then we start to manifest a physical sickness. Okay, so the free flow of energy is what we are made of, even though it looks like we're made of, solid skin and bones and everything else like that. The underlying reality of that is all energy and empty space, because we're made of atoms, and atoms are mostly empty space. And consciousness has an effect on matter. And so, that's the thing that I really want people to understand, is that freedom is not something that is taken away or granted to you by the state or by a government. It's really who you are and what you're made of, and you have a right to be absolutely free. The only thing that you have to do as a free individual is not interfere with the freedom of others. You don't want to become a criminal and steal from other people. You don't want to kill other people. You don't want to do bad things to another person, because then you're interfering with their freedom. So, it kind of gets back to the philosophic roots of what constitutes a good society. What constitutes an enlightened society? Well, people are free, and they interact with each other in a way that enhances freedom for everyone.
Yes.
Absolutely, yes.
That's a growing, viable, wonderful society where all kinds of good things can happen because nobody is suppressing anyone else.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's so difficult when, people, it's another word I don't like. We should make up our own words, really, but we keep talking about people that are still asleep. But I guess that fits the bill, really. But it's so difficult because they know nothing about anything that's going on. And when you look at one thing and start falling down the rabbit hole, you just realize, everything is just a total lie and everything's so messed up. And
the main problem is we're all just so brainwashed with all of this. This is the way it is from birth, and I've even had a complete and ridiculous, outrageous fear of authority, and I'm healing that now. But it is drummed into us. You must follow the rules. You must follow authority. I was told I had to fear God. I'm like, what's the point of doing that? And that was one thing I never fell into alignment with. But I've, been a goody two-shoes for many years because I feared the authority. But now I'm like, hey, wait a minute. If I don't do anyone any harm, I'm good. Natural law. I've actually been listening a lot to Mark Passio lately, and his message is fantastic. I'm so in alignment with it. Do no harm. Yeah. We are not doing any violence or any damage. And like you said, his point is, do not commit theft. You don't thieve any... not just possessions, but you don't take away people's free will and their comfort and their lives. And it's basically, he said, you can really round it down to theft. You do not thieve anything from anyone else. You live in peace and harmony with them, and my little word for that is enflowment. And yes, and it's really wonderful to hear, yes, another person, that's what you're looking for, that's the vision. All of us just be free and to live in responsibility for our actions, and if we harm someone else, we pay and we apologize and we move on. Yeah. And it's simple. And he said at one point in his lecture, Mark Passio, he said, I couldn't sleep last night, and I'm never somebody that can't sleep. He said, I suddenly said to myself, why am I even having to go out here and tell this to people? It's just obvious.
Yeah, it should be obvious. It
should be, but we're so brainwashed. From day one, and when we land on this earth, got to do this, got to do that. This is the rules. That's the rules. Be good. If you're not good, you'll get punished. This, that, the other. And it takes a while to step back out of that. And I think that's the biggest problem.
But Niara, do you feel that the people that are awake now must have some, I know we're all ETs, but must have some outside connection in the way that they were born here or even volunteered to come here at this time, because people just aren't going to wake up, and so there has to be a number of people of our like here to raise the consciousness.
Well, if I understand the question, I would say yes in most cases, but I think that there are people on planet Earth here that are just spiritual people, and through their spirituality and their spiritual practice, they're awakening as well.
Yes, yes.
And so I don't think it's necessarily every time an ET connection.
Right.
But I do think there are people who are just waking up on their own.
Yes, there are gradually, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. We're going to go for a music break in a couple of minutes. Do you want to run through your links to your website and your Facebook for people on air who aren't in the chat room?
Sure. My website is facingtheshadow.embracingthelight.com, and my healing arts website is called encounterswithhealing.com. And my email address, if people want to contact me, is gaiatribe.niara@gmail.com. And I'm also on Facebook. So not too hard to find.
And all that information is on our website at Just Us Radio, so people can find that if they do a Google search for it. So thank you very much, Niara. We're going to a music break, and then afterwards we'll have a look at your book, because I think that's just brilliant. And to help people with not only their experiences they may have that they don't understand, but I think that your book could help an awful lot of people.
Yeah, I think so too. I wrote it for that purpose.
Okay. So we're just going to the music break now, and we'll see you all afterwards.
Okay.
Join us on Just Us Radio Network for our shows Inflowment, Unity in Community, Numbers in Time, The Indigenous People's Voice, One Point of View, Walking the Talk with Kurt, and the People's Round Table. Check out our website for information about upcoming shows. Just ask Google to find Just Us Radio Network, and you will find links to our website and to our Blog Talk and Facebook pages, as well as to our podcast, where you can subscribe for automatic downloads.
Well, welcome back to this very wonderful conversation we've been having with Niara. And wow, I have been loving it. It's just so interesting to hear these experiences. And I think it's fantastic that you've shared your experiences in your books. And I'm going to be definitely looking out for those, Niara. So, yes, Sheila, hi. Are you back there too?
I'm back.
Oh. So you mentioned that maybe we'd go through the book.
Yes, because I think there's a lot of interesting titles there.
Yeah, that sounds great. So,
before you start, Niara, is there anything in particular you want to bring out about the book before we talk about the things that strike us as interesting?
Well, part 3 is my favorite part. because it was the most fun part of the book to write. The other part was pretty hard to write. But the insight section, or the awakening section of the book is really the fun part, because, over 14 years, I dug in my heels when I first got the memories back, and I just thought, I don't want to go public with this. Other people can go public. I just want to try to have a normal life if I can.
Yeah.
But it didn't work out that way. So I dug in my heels, like I said, for about 14 years before going public. And then once I decided to go public, I'm kind of like, well, in for a penny, in for a pound, so they say. And so I'm here, and I'm doing what I'm doing. And this is the part, and, people will have opinions about what I'm going to say and whatever, and I have to tell you, I'll just preface this with, I would meet people in my life who said that they're on a mission and they had things to do because of their mission. And I would say, how can you be sure that you have a mission? Well, now I understand them because I feel that way. I feel like I was born for what I'm doing right now. And because, and this isn't in any kind of dark way or bad way or anything else like that, I'm just kind of earthbound ET who's down here collecting information about what it is to be a human being on this planet, and then that information goes back to my people. And this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then writing the book is another part of what I'm supposed to be doing. And the other thing that I'm very passionate about teaching is I want to teach people about the process that I went through in opening up to my intuition and my expanded senses. Because once we have our intuition working properly and reliably and we can trust it, then we don't have to take anybody's word for anything. We will know by the quality, energy, and vibration of the information coming to us, whether it's visual, auditory, or some other way. We'll know by the vibration whether it's true or false or good or bad, and then it takes all the guesswork out. Because right now, without our expanded senses, people can still lie to us, and we may not pick up on it. But when we're in our intuition and it's working properly, then we will be able to know when we're being lied to or not. And that would end so much of these control games and all the stuff going on this planet that many of us just really don't like.
Absolutely. Over to you, Jerry.
Yeah, that was just so well said. I really can feel your passion and what you're really working towards, and it's just so beautiful that people like yourself have taken the time and effort and energy to put these messages out. It is so fantastic. The great thing is it's becoming more and more encouraging that there's more and more people stepping out there and putting out this help and direction and for me, when I listen to people like you and people like Mark and George and all those people, I just say, I know this and it's reminding me and I remember and I know this. And it's not like somebody's saying something and I'm like, oh, I believe you and I believe this. Is not that for me now. With what I'm picking up now, I know this is what is. And this, I'm part of this in my little way, whatever way I'm going to go. In fact, I'm becoming inspired that I'm going to write some sort of talk and I'm going to go out there and talk about the book I'm reading about the end of all evil. That is so mind-opening and it just makes so much sense. I think people need to just hear it and then decide for themselves, wait, this is sense. Wait, this really is true. Wait, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I listening to all these rules and, authorities and all of that? And it's just inspiring. So absolutely, I take my hat off to you for putting all this out. And yeah, let's go through the book and get a real feel for what's in the book to help us, realize what's actually really going on. And the light and the dark, I've actually been reading a lot about that too with Laura Lee Mystica, and she's talking about, the dark's not all bad and the light's not all good. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, we learn through contrast on this planet. And if we didn't have good, we wouldn't know good from bad. And if we didn't have light, how would we understand, what dark is?
Yeah.
No?
Absolutely. Contrast is a real. We can't live without it. You can't have one without the other. So
that brings me on to chapter 2, where you start talking about the quest to know the really real truth. What does that mean, Niara?
What does that mean? Well, I've been thinking about that a lot recently. Thinking I had this big wish when I was a little kid. I wanted to know the really real truth about myself and God and the universe and everything. And I have learned so much in this lifetime, and not just the surface information too, but the deep, more esoteric stuff. So I got more than I bargained for.
I think that's the case, though, with what's happening now. I think people have been through such awful experiences, and they've been so brave to come out in the face of all the ridicule from people. But what's happening is now people now are gathering towards a raising consciousness and awareness. That's what most people are about now.
Yeah. And I love the really, really real truth. That's so true. And here we are talking about truth again. That's what Mark's on about. Truth. It's about the truth, and there is truth. And we've all sort of gone through all these various levels of learning this and learning that, and then whether there's any truth that's true for you, it might not be true for me, but truth is truth. And that's a fact, the real truth, really real truth. So I love that. That's a really good way.
So how do you relate that to people who say, oh, this is my truth?
Well, I think that's true. I think that there are individual truths, like something may be true for one person and not true for another. But the truth of the universe is truth that stays truth no matter what.
Yeah, that's the difference.
It just is, as a kind of a fact of existence.
Yeah. Okay. That's a really good way to put that. Yeah.
And I said really real truth as a child because I would go to Sunday school and I would get that religious indoctrination, and there was an awful lot of hypocrisy there that I saw really early on. And I just thought, I don't think they're telling me the truth. I said, I feel more truth when I'm out in nature communing with the birds and the bees than I feel in church. So I didn't really trust church. And that's why I started studying on my own and trying to read. And I turned to science in those early years because I thought, well, if religion is not where I want to be, so I turned to science. And I gave myself quite a good scientific education from an early age on.
Mm-hmm. And then you went into warrior training.
Yeah.
How would you describe that? Some kind of shamanistic training?
Yeah, it's I would describe it as definitely like an informal thing, but warrior training was basically being in my family of origin because there were really some pretty severe problems of alcoholism and codependency, and I had to kind of learn to be a warrior from a very early age. You know, I was trying to be present for all of the drunken arguments and fights so that things didn't get too far out of control. And I kind of had to, kind of pump myself up and be strong for that kind of thing. Of course, I didn't have much of a childhood because of it, but it definitely did toughen up a young girl who was very sensitive and needed to be toughened up for what was to come.
Wow.
And I think that, applies to a lot of us now. We have been through a lot of pain and a lot of things that have made us strong. And you have to be strong to get out there and do this in the face of everything else that's thrown at you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to do that. So did you take on any particular aspect of warrior training? Or did you just feel led to it?
Training, if you haven't read the book, the warrior training chapter is really just about, the rough childhood that I had and that I had to really toughen up and be strong. And the warrior part was when I had to pick up a stick of firewood and threaten to hit my dad with it to get him to calm down.
Right.
So that's basically what I mean by warrior training, was just that childhood, scenario where I'm in a dysfunctional alcoholic home where there's violence, and then I'm having to try to do something to keep the violence in the house from happening.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's almost an aspect of what Jerry and I called like big niara steps in.
Yes.
No, and you just have to do something, because it's one of the things that we have to learn. We can't be all nicey to people all the time. We have to really make sure that we keep ourselves in the right frame of mind, and it's a case of learning to stand up for yourself in so many situations.
Yeah, and certainly had to there, and that at a young age. So that definitely was a start in life for you to be strong. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't easy, but it did really prepare me for what was to come.
Yeah, I guess that's what you need preparation for what was to come. What doesn't keep you makes you stronger.
I really feel that I had a soul contract to have those experiences.
Yeah.
Because I kept asking, why am I having these experiences?
Shit, yeah.
And for a long time it was kind of a scream, why me? Later on, it was more like, okay, why would this happen to me? You know? And if we're 100% responsible for the experiences that we attract in life, then really, why did this happen to me?
Yes.
And that's when I kind of got the message from my spirit guides that it was a soul contract. Right. That I had a soul contract to come in and have these experiences and have them. And even when I was going through the bad experiences, my star family was right there with me, holding space around me to try to help me through those experiences. Back then, I wasn't aware enough to really pick up on it, but I know now after the fact that they were there watching over me through all the worst of it.
Right. Okay, yes. And it's like you have another chapter here, Nights in a Different World, and we've all been through so many weird experiences in astral traveling or dreamtime states and different beings turning up. What were your dreams like? Or you're saying experiences, they're not really dreams, are they?
No, not dreams.
No.
The experiences were getting picked up by the Greys and having that exam with the ultrasound over my abdomen. There were other things that went on, certain types of conditioning. This is really kind of an uncomfortable thing to talk about, but I'm going to go ahead and put it out there anyway, because I know there's people that may be listening who've had similar experiences.
Well, whatever you feel you'd like to put out, that's fine, Nara. Just stop if you don't want to.
Well, there was a kind of sexual conditioning that went on, and I think it's because they. This is what I believe has happened from my hypnosis and from my own feelings and intuition and so on and so forth, is that I have implants in me, like the one behind the ear, possibly the one, down in the sacrum area, and there may be others. And I think that these implants, because the hybridization program, basically what the Greys are doing, they're trying to put back sexual reproduction into their species, because they procreate by cloning.
Yes, I understand that, yes.
After the fact, they realized that they lost something vital in their genetic makeup when they moved to propagation by cloning rather than by sexual intercourse. So now they're doing the hybridization program to put all of that back into their species. And so when they're studying us, they put implants in us that sample our endorphin levels, our hormone levels, all the different chemical processes that happen in the human body, particularly erection and sexual intercourse. And so they condition certain people for sexuality so that they can get that information about the hormones and the endorphins and the other kinds of chemical things that happen in the body during sexuality and arousal.
So they're really researching what's going on with people when they put an implant in them so that they can reproduce that way, they can learn from it.
They have to know what's going on so that they can link up the genetic material to reproduce that in their hybrids.
Right.
And the way I say it, it's a little amusing, but it's kind of like this. If sex didn't feel good, who would do it?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yes. So that's amazing.
So they want to make sure their hybrids are wired up correctly so that all the emotional and physical motivations are there to make their hybrids want to procreate in that manner.
And what do you feel the purpose would be on these hybrids? To come here to Earth, as many of them have already, I understand, but what do you think their purpose is?
Well, I've heard stories that the hybrids are going to take over the Earth and so on and so forth. And some people make that out to be a really bad thing. I'm kind of neutral about it. I don't know that that's really going to happen or not. Some people think that's going to be a really good thing. Other people think it's like an invasion. And I'm just kind of taking a neutral stance on it. And I don't think that it will be solely hybrids, but I do think that there will be a lot more open interaction between hybrids and regular human beings.
Right.
And I hope the interaction is good.
And what do you feel on the other side of it, where there's so much information out there about, on the other side with, you know, the people that control the planet here trying to make us more robotic with nanotechnology and things like that?
What do I think about it?
Yes, because it seems like, it seems to me that we're talking about like Greys and maybe some other extraterrestrials trying to be more on the human level, whereas on the other side of it, someone behind the scenes somewhere is trying to make us more on a robotic side.
Yeah, I would say that the Archons that I mentioned earlier, they're probably the force behind that mechanization, because they, from what I understand, they are a created being. They are not eternal. Like us humans, we have a soul. We're eternal. We're going to continue for eternity. Whether we are a drop from the ocean of consciousness or whether we go back and merge with the ocean of consciousness, we are eternal. And these other beings are not. And they kind of envy us. And because they envy us, they're trying to take stuff away from us. They're trying to control us. They're trying to manage us in certain ways for their benefit. And so the way that I see things going on right now is they have been managing our consciousness for a very long time. And I wouldn't call them ETs. I would call them extra-dimensionals.
Yes.
Rather than an extraterrestrial.
Yes.
And so they've been managing our consciousness. And if you think about it, our consciousness has been managed on this planet for eons. You know, we've had royalty and control systems and indoctrination, and all of it has been geared to manage our consciousness. If the world we see around us is made from our consciousness and what we hold in our minds, then the management of our consciousness as a human collective to create the world in which we are subject to control and the controllers are on top. You know, we have been indoctrinated into this form of reality that they want, not us, but they want, and they understand about consciousness. So they've been managing our consciousness to produce a version of reality where they are in control and we are subject to their control.
Yes, and from my research, there's different forms of Archons as well. I mean, there's said to be many here as well, and when you look at them, they're totally emotionless. They don't have feelings. But then there's the Archon cells that can infect you personally. Yeah,
And so it's this management of consciousness. That's why there's a chapter in my book called Facing Political and Societal Demons or something like that. And it's a long chapter, and it's not an easy chapter to read for a lot of people because it deals with all the indoctrination. But unless I tell people all the ways in which they're being indoctrinated, they don't have much of a chance of pulling their energy out of those thought programs.
Right.
So I'm just trying to educate people about what is so that they are empowered with choice about where they're going to put their consciousness energy.
Right. And the first part of your book also goes into the experiences you've had and the dream time things. So if we go on to the healing path, the path to within, How did you start down that path? Do you feel that you're inspired to write about things and things come to you in that way?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
And the healing, Go ahead.
Yeah, so, and you're talking about in the past and in the now of back then. What does that mean? You've got here strange experiences in the past and in the now of back then.
Wow, I'd have to...
Yeah, never mind about that. It's just I was
trying to get to that, but...
Yeah, don't worry about that.
I think I was talking about...
the rest of it says, for every answer, more and more questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess you're looking back at your experiences in the past and relating...
experiences and really looking at how they were impacting my present. And... It was just an interesting time.
Right.
And,
I'm really interested to read this book myself. And then you're talking about spirit guidance. Do you feel that all your spirit guidance come from your star family?
Most of it. I have a mantis being who is also, and I call him a spirit guardian. He's almost like a bodyguard.
Yes, and I've heard that they're very emotional and affectionate people. That's something that Simon Parkes talks about, that he had a mantis that he actually used to call Mum when he was a child in the cradle, that used to come to him. Yes. And George does too, doesn't he, Jerry? Did you unmute yourself, Jerry?
Yes, I was muted. Sorry. What did you just say?
Didn't George have interactions with a mantis? Doesn't he?
He has a mantis child.
Right.
Yes, he described on one of the interviews, I think it was the first one with Laura Lee Mystica, and he described meeting the child and holding it in his arms and its legs being like really long because they got the doubled over legs, and it was quite interesting listening to him describe it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And do you feel that you have anything like that? Do you feel that you have children?
Yes, I do have children out there. I think I had as many as 17 hybrid babies taken out of me.
Wow.
But I don't think that they all grew up. I mean, it's kind of a hit and miss experiment. Sometimes the hybrids live and thrive, and sometimes they don't. And that's why the ETs get the mothers to hold the babies, because they realize they need that human touch.
Right. That's interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. And then you're like excavating through the rubble of emotional fallout. What's the emotional fallout been like?
Well, the emotional fallout is in part the post-traumatic stress disorder, fear and anger and, wondering, looking over your shoulder all the time, feeling like, again, that kind of scream inside of why me? Why did I have to have this, And
did you go through a stage where you were scared to sleep at night?
Yeah, sleep has been kind of an issue on and off throughout my life.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of another issue right now, but I'm hoping it'll calm down soon.
Yeah. And what's your definition of mental health? Because, people here, if they go to normal psychiatrists, they would just say that they are mental. We know that they don't listen to things and they're given all these drugs and things. So how would you define mental health?
Well, I can pull up the statement that I made about that. I wrote a really good statement in the book.
Right.
If I can just get the computer to bring it up here.
You're
fine. Yeah, take your time.
Take time because this book, I'm just looking at all the titles and everything and all the chapters. It's fascinating. I'm definitely going to be getting this book. I don't know if I'm going to manage to read it, but I love everything you're putting out here, and this is absolutely fascinating, all of it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful that you've taken the time to share it. It really is wonderful. So much good stuff.
And like I said, Niara, this is the reason I contact you, because of all the healing work. It's not just going through all the time about the experiences.
It's so important, isn't it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the healing is really important. And I just about have this statement up here. I'll just have to scroll down to get it. It was in a chapter called Comprehending the Incomprehensible, where I put this statement about sanity, because I was talking about personality disorders. So.
But it's interesting that a lot of us have been through things that people would think we were crazy, because, you know, every time you say anything that's out of the box, people just automatically say you're crazy.
Just deny.
And so many people deny even that we have more than 5 senses.
Yeah.
Okay, so I found the passage here, and I'll just read it. It's about a paragraph or so.
Right.
Defining mental health. So how do we ourselves determine if we are sane in a meaningful way? We have an ability to self-reflect in a way grounded in reality. We have the facility to look at the facts of things around us and of our interactions with others. We are able to separate our beliefs, opinions, and judgments about people, events, and situations from the reality of the facts themselves. We have the capacity to recognize both our faults and our good qualities and not overindulge in fixation about either. We have the emotional depth to empathize with others, to vicariously feel what they feel, to understand, we have the emotional depth to empathize with others, to vicariously feel what they feel, to understand and respond appropriately from that true empathy. We have the ability to anchor ourselves in the present, distinguishing what is happening in the present from what has happened in the past. We can differentiate the people we are interacting with in our present from how people acted in our past. We understand that the past can have an impact, but we can react without thinking from past hurts. But we return to an understanding of the separation of past from present in people, events, and situations. So that is the, kind of the paragraph that I wrote about mental health, because in that chapter I was writing about personality disordered individuals.
Yes.
And it was really important for me to also make a statement about sanity, because some of these personality disordered individuals, well, let's just say that narcissists have infiltrated every hierarchical institution on the planet, like scum rising to the top, and they are the worst control freaks and just crazy-making, insane individuals that have a pathological need to be paid attention to, and it's all about them.
Yes.
It's me. I'm the greatest. I'm the one. I'm so cool, and everybody else is just a piece of crap. So I was writing about narcissism and antisocial personality disorder, and trying to get people to understand that these people do not have the normal human spectrum of emotions like most of us do. They are all about themselves to a pathological degree.
Right, that's
and
brilliant.
Some of them are also behind the new DSM-5, which is the new diagnostic manual for mental health conditions, and they have made so many new conditions that you could label everybody on the planet with one of them.
Yes, and that's the aim.
This is an outrage, because they're trying to basically what I see the agenda is, they're trying to dumb us down so that they can justify to us why they need to take over our health care and why they need to take over looking after us, because we're too stupid to do it for ourselves, because they dumbed us down.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
With this particular agenda in mind.
Yes.
Okay? And it's these narcissists that are they've infiltrated everywhere. And this new DSM-5 diagnostic manual, a lot of therapists are up in arms about it, and they don't want to use it. They said, we already have people diagnosed enough, and this thing just creates more disorders and more labels to put on people, and that is counterproductive, and it absolutely is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and other therapists as well. Have you been able to get together to put your point of view forward?
Mm-hmm. Not so much yet. A little bit, but that's coming.
Yes.
I'm kind of, right now I'm still, even though the book came out in November, it was almost 5 years writing that book, and I'm still kind of recovering from writing a book.
Yes.
But once I get a few things recovered and handled in my personal life, I will be out there teaching. I will be creating YouTube videos to educate people about the concepts in my book and to try to see what I can do about making this a better place here on this planet.
I mean, just looking at your titles from an energetic level, I can see that you've poured your heart and soul into this and probably put many tears into it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a gift from me to the people of this planet. And people, the people that, helped me, like with editing and graphics and stuff, they said you could easily charge $33 for this book. It's a big, hefty book, and it's got a lot of information on it, and you really put several pounds of flesh into this. Well, and I did, but I wanted to keep it at $22 because I really want it to be as affordable as possible for people while getting some return for my investment of time and energy to write it.
Yeah, you deserve that. Where's the best place to get it where you get the most out of it?
If you like me and you want me to get the most royalties, the best place to order it is my website.
Yeah.
And you can order it there, and you can order a signed copy if you want. Awesome. If you really need a discount, then please, by all means, go and get it from Amazon, where I think it's like $19.40. I
want to get it where you'll get the most out of it.
It's so awful what Amazon does, though. I mean, it seems like the system is set up so everybody needs to go to Amazon, and they give you nothing back, do they, as authors? No. Nothing.
Well, they give you a better royalty than traditional publishing houses.
Oh, right, they do.
If a traditional publishing house, you're lucky if you get $1.50 to $2 per book that's sold. But with Amazon, I get about $5 per book. But when it's sold through my Create Space page or my website, and you order it directly from me, then I get a royalty of about $10.
Yes. How did you go about publishing your book? Who did you approach?
I published it myself on Create Space.
Okay. That's on the internet, yeah?
Yeah, so it's self-published, and Create Space actually links right up to Amazon.
So how did you go about the cover and everything?
Oh, the cover. The cover was designed by a very dear friend of mine named Dave Robison. And the other part of the cover, like the photograph of me that's on the cover, that was done by a wonderful photographer in Arizona named Chris Loomis. And he gave me that picture because I was wanting images to use for the book cover. So then I gave that picture to Dave, and Dave was the one that created that beautiful cover.
Right. Because it's not easy to get a book published, even to get there in the first place, and then you've got to get the printing and everything.
Yeah. The nice thing is Create Space does a lot of that for you. We had to format the book and upload it and create the cover, but then once that's done, then it's a print-on-demand book.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yes. That's what other people have started doing, started putting it online, because I've bought a few books online. I can't remember that website now, but because I couldn't wait for the book to come out, so I've actually bought them online. It's a bit more difficult to read when you've got them online, but yeah, sometimes that's a good way of doing it. Yeah. Do you want to go through or not some of the realities of mind controls? I know we've touched on it, but there's so many things going on now that it's very difficult, even when they're capable of putting voices in our head. That's so confusing, and it's deliberate to understand what is coming from our heart and what is being implanted in our mind, really.
Well, again, it's that intuitive faculty that we need to develop in ourselves so that we know the difference energetically between when we're getting a true telepathic message or whether we're picking up something empathically or whether we're getting some kind of strange voice in the head.
Do you have any method of testing that?
Any method of testing it?
Yeah, if people can, say, I don't know really, if you feel something and then it takes you to a different place than you really want to be in your heart, that could be a form of understanding, to learn the feel of it. You really need to learn the feel of it, where it sits with you.
Yeah, it's something that I began to actually perceive it because of my years of meditation practice and then my training as a body-centered therapist. I was very, very much in touch with the body. And when I started having telepathic communication, I would actually call it more telepathic communication.
Right.
Because oftentimes I get, it's like a vibration will kind of touch my body. You know, like from my 3 interdimensional teacher guides, they're always on my left. And so I'll feel, if I'm really paying attention closely, I'll just feel this very gentle, subtle vibration kind of come in at me from the left. And as soon as it hits my body, it changes to English, you know, the English language in my head. So my body actually translates the vibration, the energetic quality of the communication, and makes it into English in my head.
You're absolutely excellent at describing it so people can understand, because sometimes it's difficult to describe something when there often aren't the words, because you just know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm good with words, so
yes,
that's a benefit for me, because that's going to help me really teach people about this. So what I say to people, when you're trying to assess what information is coming at you from any source, then you need to listen with your body to how that information lands in your body, because it will land in your body in a particular way, and your body will have a reaction to it that is either a resisting, like, I don't really care for that, or your body will have kind of a relaxation wave, and it will just kind of go, yes, that really resonates for me.
Yes.
And that's just the beginning explanation of it. There's much more I can go into, and I will go into when I create the YouTubes to teach about this.
Right. And people can experience that in different ways, can't they?
Yes.
It won't always be like coming from the left. You just have to learn.
Yeah. It's like with I had a parrot, and the parrot would send me a telepathic burst, and that didn't come into the left. That would always hit me right in the heart area.
Right.
If it hit the heart, then again, I'd get words.
Yeah.
And I knew what he wanted.
So you had a really good, you were sort of like a parrot whisperer. You could communicate with your parrot. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Jerry has a real affinity with the horses, and I was up visiting Jerry a little while ago, and the horses really talk. So you can speak to them and they answer, even with nods, and you can just feel their energy. It's amazing.
Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. You really can. You can feel the energy. Our language. I mean, people are waking up to their intuitive senses.
Yeah.
The Beach Boys back in the '60s had a song called "Good Vibrations." She's given me good vibrations.
Uh-huh.
I mean, people were starting to think about vibrations and energy way back then, and now people will say, oh, that really resonates for me. What exactly are they saying when they say that really resonates for me? It has to be something that they're feeling at an energetic level that feels good.
Yes. I love the Beach Boys, by the way. That was my era, the Beach Boys and all. And when I now look back at music from the past, blasts from the past, it's just amazing that I didn't really understand the words they were using at the time. Mm-hmm. But they were so profound and so about freedom and enlightenment, and I just didn't really take it all in at the time. Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to go on now, Jerry?
I was just trying to buy the book, actually.
Nothing like in the moment.
Never happened. But anyway, I'm really enjoying the all the titles of the chapter descriptions, and there's just so much down. That's why I'm trying to get the book, because it's fascinating. All the things you've got listed, and all the different titles all the way down. It's absolutely. And then you get to chapter 13, Slavery and the Eight Veils, by Don Harkins. It's all, you've got so many parts in there. Yeah, I'm just fascinated by all of this. I mean, would you like to describe anything about what's in that chapter 13? There's so many things down there.
What's the title of the chapter again?
Confronting political, societal, and cultural demons.
Yeah, that's the long, difficult chapter I was talking about. That chapter really goes into all the different things that are being perpetrated on humanity, like chemtrails, like the indoctrination programs. I mean, I was put under trauma-based mind control in my experiences, but the kind of mind control that the general population gets is indoctrination. We get religious indoctrination. We get political indoctrination. We get
educational
indoctrination. Anything that we gravitate to or become part of, it's an indoctrination. And then again, it's that managing of our consciousness so that what we hold in our consciousness, we make real in the world. And when you have that on a collective scale, it's very powerful, and it's very hard to break that trance.
Yeah.
So that's why I wrote that chapter, so that each individual that reads that book will understand the level of indoctrination that they have been put under, so that then they can begin to be empowered to choose to pull their energy out of those indoctrination programs. Because that's an essential part of evolving the human race to a degree that we can transcend this control.
And you make several mentions to something that Jerry and I are always talking about, and that's fear.
Mm-hmm.
Fear is the biggest control of us, I think.
Yeah. It is. Mm-hmm.
And
that's another thing that I did in the book, was try to educate people about the fact that your energy and vibration, you're not a body of skin and flesh and blood. I mean, that's the illusory part. And I know it's a very compelling and very real illusion, and when I cut my finger, doggone it, I bleed. Okay? But the thing is the underlying reality is energy and vibration. And if people understand that, and if they look and study about out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences, that knowledge is going to set them free to understand that they are not really their body. They inhabit their body, but they are not their body. Yes. So that's one of the things that I really wanted to get across, because as soon as you know that you're not your body, it's very freeing.
Yes.
You can think, wow, the body can die, but I'll continue.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I put that in to keep, to try to help lessen the fear and try to give people strategies for dealing with fear so that they can become free of it. Because I don't think we become free by avoiding looking at scary things. I think we become free by looking at the scary things and finding a way to move ourselves beyond the fear.
Well, and realize they're not really that scary at all. Like exactly what you've just described. When you realize you're not your body, you don't care anymore. You have no fear of death whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's just all that stuff's gone.
Mhm.
So absolutely, that's wonderful.
Awareness, it really helps to overcome fear.
Yeah, it's really important. It's just so important for people to understand that they're made of energy, that freedom is the essence of who they are as a living being, and that they are empowered to withdraw their energy from that indoctrination and create something completely new. And if we can do that on a collective level, then we can change the face of this planet. And we may not even need ETs to do it. But when we make that leap in consciousness, then we will create the common ground on which contact with good ETs can take place.
And I think that, to my mind, that seems to be one of the goals of ETs, to help us get through this ourselves.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've just strolled down to your movies for reflection, and everything on that list that, are movies that I've really been interested in. Some that many people might not have seen, like What Dreams May Come, The 13th Floor. Have you ever watched, I'm going to go out of my head now, The Adjustment Bureau?
No, I don't think I've seen it.
There's lots of movies that are so, even though I know the other side of it, where Hollywood puts things out to mind control us or scare us, or, it seems to be that somehow these movies are coming out that really hit us and really make us understand what's really going on. So it's a mishmash of all different things.
Yeah. One of the things I've heard from, a couple of Illuminati defectors is that the Illuminati they have a big hand in the movie industry, and there are certain rules of engagement that the Illuminati have to abide by, and so they do it in a tricky manner. They release a lot of the things that they're doing in films, and put it in front of all of us.
Yes.
And then we look at the film, and we just think it's entertainment. But according to them, they think, okay, we put it in front of them, and they're not screaming and yelling and objecting, so we're going to consider that permission to do what we want to do.
I've heard somebody say that before.
Yes, I've heard that as well, that for some reason they have to put it out there, saying what they're going to do.
Us, but in a very
and it's
clever
like the Wizard of Oz. That was a major Illuminati movie.
Mm-hmm,
you know, frightening. I mean, it scared the crap out of me when I was a little girl, that Wicked Witch of the West.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was one part in that movie that actually showed us all the way out, and I think it was referring to consciousness, and it was the part when Glenda the Good comes floating down after the wizard is taken off in his balloon, and Dorothy is crying because she thinks, now I'm never going to get back to Kansas, and the Good Witch says, you've had the power to go home all along, my dear. All you have to do is say there's no place like home and tap the heels of those ruby slippers together 3 times, and you'll be back home. And so Dorothy does this, and she's back home. Well, what an incredible metaphor for stating an intention and using the power of consciousness to bring an end to all the abuse and all the control.
Yes, absolutely. There were so many things in that movie, even like the yellow brick road that was made of gold and connections to the financial system. There was so much going on in that movie. Yeah. But it did come in from both sides as well, for, as we could say, the Illuminati side, but also for the rising of consciousness as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just amazing, the things that come out there. How would you describe resonance and dissonance?
Resonance and dissonance.
Do you remember what you wrote about that?
Yes, I do. I remember that quite well. And I wish, I'm looking around here for my musical things, because I wish I could do a demonstration, but I'm not sure where they are, and we don't have much time left. But anyway, if you're sitting at a piano or a keyboard, and you know a little bit about playing music, you can play a chord that would sound very beautiful, because all the notes, say you play 3 notes, and all 3 of those notes harmonize together and make a really beautiful sound. And then you can, on the same keyboard, you can take 2 notes that are right next to each other. So you have like a true note like E, and then right up from it you would have E sharp. If you play both of those together, they're going to clash, and you're going to get kind of an icky feeling because those notes are clashing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I use that musical example to show what dissonance is. And then the other example of the 3 notes that harmonize together and sound beautiful, that's what I mean by resonance. And when you play the notes, you feel it in your body immediately. When there's resonance, you feel it. Okay, these are harmonizing notes, and boy, that feels good. And then the other one that clashes, you play those notes that clash, and that's going to feel dissonant in your body. And you're going to have like a reaction that is like resisting it or repulsed by it.
That's interesting, because I've experienced people playing the bowls, you know, the Tibetan singing bowls.
Yeah. And
you'll find different people resonate with some of the sounds, some of the pitches, and other things just make you kind of shake inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Sound is very powerful. It's a very powerful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Absolutely. Something here is making me laugh. I don't know why, but a human being is a community of many voices.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can you explain that a bit? That's very intriguing.
Yeah, well, we do have many voices, and in the process of trying to learn to use our intuition, we are going to run into the voices in our mind, the analytical voices, and we will run into the voices of our emotions, like, oh gosh, I really want that chocolate bar, and is it my intuition that wants to have the chocolate, is telling me that I need the chocolate for some reason, or is it that emotional voice of, I just want the chocolate, you know? So it's a learning process. When you're learning to use your intuition and you get like a spontaneous thought, over time, if you know, as you work with it, you'll learn. But at first, you're going to think, well, is that an intuitive voice, or did that come out of my emotion? Is that a voice of my fear and my emotion? or is that the voice of my intuition? And you kind of have to play with it a little bit and develop like little tests to test yourself as to what kind of voice is it that you're really hearing. But if you're listening to an emotional voice, an emotional charge will be there with it. And if you're listening to a mental voice, it'll be very analytical. The intuitive voice or the intuitive messages that would come to you, they're going to be very spontaneous, and they're not going to immediately have an emotion attached to them. They may bring up something that I call emotional resonance. And an example of emotional resonance would be in a recent hypnosis session, I saw my Lyran mother, and I saw her unconditional love for me, and it was a very powerful experience. And that was what I would call an experience of emotional resonance. It was first intuitive and energetic, and then the emotion came in because of that resonant intuition feeling.
Right.
So there's a different progression. So if something is, if you're being manipulated emotionally, it's a whole different feeling and it's a whole different energy.
That's absolutely wonderful, Niara. So we are coming to the end of the show. If you can just give out your details, your website, and where people can contact you. Do you mind if people contact you just to talk about something that they're worried about talking to with anyone else?
That's fine. If they're, if I'm going to do healing work with someone, I usually we usually talk by phone or Skype for about 15 minutes and make sure that we're a good fit for working together. So, yeah, talk. And I do my best to try to help people if I can. But I get tons of emails, so sometimes it takes time to get to the email.
Yes, if you want to run through your contact details for us,
okay.
Niara.
Yeah. My websites are Facing the Shadow, EmbracingTheLight.com, and EncountersWithHealing.com, if you're interested in healing work or hypnotherapy. And my email address is GaiaTribe.Niara at gmail.com.
Right. Thank you very much, Niara. This has been an absolutely wonderful conversation, and I could go on forever talking to you. It's just been amazing. So much there. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for everyone that's joined us in the chat room. Mm-hmm. And the archives will be up in about 30 minutes. And in a couple of days, you can also watch this on YouTube. So thank you very much, everyone. Any closing words, Jerry?
Well, just again, thank you so much, Niara, for joining us and for writing your book. And I'm definitely going to get on that book. It might take me a while to read it, but I'm going there for it.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you having me on the show, and it's been wonderful talking to both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And the book again is called
Facing the Shadow, Embracing the Light, A Journey of Spirit Retrieval and Awakening.
Thank you very much, Niara.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone, and we'll see you soon. The next show is on Monday, the Indigenous People of Voice.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks, Niara.
Good night. Thanks.
Good night. Thank you.
Join us on Just Us Radio Network for our shows Inflowment, Unity in Community, Numbers in Time, The Indigenous People's Voice, One Point of View, Walking the Talk with Kurt, and the People's Round Table. Check out our website for information about upcoming shows. Just ask Google to find Just Us Radio Network, and you will find links to our website and to our Blog Talk and Facebook pages, as well as to our podcast, where you can subscribe for automatic downloads.